watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We are tracking several breaking news stories and developing stories this morning as well. Want to jump right in here. Update out of Gadsden County where we have learned that according to the sheriff, they have made three, quote, major arrests in connection with the shooting of Ethan Pritchard. These are photos of Ethan, who played at Seminole High School in Sanford, now a freshman linebacker at Florida State University, and he was shot about a week and a half ago in Gadsden County in Havana, where he was driving with his aunt after a game. We do expect an update from investigators today. Again, all we know right now at this point is that three arrests have been made. That's according to the Gadsden County Sheriff. Ethan has been in the hospital ever since then. We know he was in critical condition in the ICU for a time. So very serious injuries from this incident. And up until now, had been no information about suspects or arrests or anything like that. But a big update today with the announcement of three major arrests. We do hope to hear from the Gadsden County Sheriff, from FDLE. We know they are the ones kind of leading this investigation, and we hope to hear from them at some point today. We also have a breaking update for you in this shooting that happened on Sand Lake Road in Orange County yesterday. I can give you a look at the scene. This happened early Tuesday morning. The victim in this shooting has been identified as 18-year-old Caramar Nicole Rios. We don't really have any other details right now other than we know that she was found shot inside a car that crashed on Sand Lake Road. Again, this was the scene. It happened around 2 o'clock in the morning yesterday. She was taken to the hospital, ended up dying at the hospital. And again, still an active and ongoing investigation according to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, but they have now identified that victim. And so we're hoping for some more information about that and learning more about who this woman was. Just 18 years old in a sad situation there in Orange County. Also, let me give you a live look right now. In Jacksonville, where we expect to hear from civil rights attorney Ben Crump any minute now, announcing the filing of a federal lawsuit against the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in connection with this viral traffic stop that we've talked a little bit about. I talked quite a bit about here on Fox 35 News Plus and on Florida Live. Here's some of that video showing that interaction. This was the body camera video from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. 22-year-old William McNeil Jr. Inside that car, and he recorded the whole encounter. He said, according to investigators, they pulled him over because they said he was driving without his headlights. Body camera video shows deputies telling him repeatedly to get out of the car. Then video also shows deputies ending up breaking the driver's side window, punching McNeil in the driver's seat, and pulling him out. This was the social media video that ended up going viral and getting a lot of attention for what happened. So again, we do expect Ben Crump to speak at this news conference in Jacksonville any minute now. We expect him to talk about filing a federal lawsuit over this case. He is also, according to filings, calling for the Department of Justice to investigate what he is calling a violent assault at the hands of Jacksonville Sheriff's Office officers. So we will hear from Ben Crump shortly. Also expect William McNeil to be there. So we will take you inside that news conference as soon as it begins. Let me go ahead and give you another live look. This is being held at a church in Jacksonville. And we will bring that to you live when it begins. Let me give you a live look right now over downtown Orlando as we expect another day of showers and storms here across Central Florida. Meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, we've had some rainy and stormy days, and it sounds like another one on the way today.
We sure have. It's so funny because this last spring, everybody was complaining about the drought. We were emerging from this unusually dry season. and now it's really evolved into an unusually wet, rainy season, and it continues today through the end of the week. But we've got some drier changes on the horizon. First off, though, at this hour, we've got some rain coming in from the northeast, and essentially, like yesterday, what's going to happen is this flow from the Atlantic, which has been producing some rather dramatic skies like this view from Daytona Beach. Well, that flow is going to combine with the flow coming in off the Gulf, and they're going to sort of butt heads over Orlando, and that'll produce a lot of lift in the atmosphere and a blossoming of thunderstorms this afternoon, kicking off in several hours, probably around 3 or 4 o'clock. By the way, the ocean right now looks a little angry. There is, as you'd imagine, a high risk for rip currents. It's advised you stay out of the water. If you're going to go swimming, be near a lifeguard, try and stay out of the water. Anything waist down is good, but just don't go in over your waist. The wave action and also the tides are higher than normal. It's an astronomically high tide because the moon is closer to the Earth in its annual orbit than it is other times during the year. It's at what's called the perigee, and so that tends to make the tides a little bit more dramatic. All right, next 12 hours, we're going to see temperatures ramping up to about 87 today, and our rain chances ramping up to 70%, especially this afternoon and especially after 3 p.m. Now, there's going to be a little bit of an axis of heaviest rain today that's going to be probably just south of Orlando compared to yesterday when we saw a lot of it just north of Orlando. Upwards of 6 inches of rain falling in the Wekiva area near Longwood, and temperatures in response have been tough to warm up. They've been having a little bit of a trouble, which is good. It's good. It's so humid. Now, other good news as we look at this 4-panel of some dramatic skies with clouds building is we're actually going to catch some drier air coming in this weekend. We'll talk all about it, but essentially this stationary front is going to develop low pressure along it. It'll transit the state next couple of days and then start to pull that dry air down from Georgia, making for what will be, I think, a pretty delightful weekend, especially once we get towards Sunday. So we're going to continue monitoring radar all afternoon, and in doing so, this is a look at future radar. We'll see that northeast flow bumping up against the southwest flow coming in off the Gulf, probably right over the Orlando area. It points south. Now, this latest model run is not indicating very much rain, but that is an anomaly. It's going to be stormy. There's about a 70% chance. Not as much coverage as we saw yesterday, but still a very decent chance of rain. High temperatures reaching the upper 80s at Cocoa Beach, 88 degrees in Claremont. And then looking ahead to the weekend, as I mentioned, that dry air being pulled southward, we'll have a hint of it on Friday if you're really sensitive to the humidity. You may notice it on Saturday, but especially by Sunday, our dew points, which have been in the mid-70s and upper 70s all summer, it's that really humid, muggy feel, will dip into the middle and upper 60s, which will take the edge off of the humidity and make it feel arguably delightful. It will not be any cooler. It's not going to be like in the 70s. It'll still be in the mid and upper 80s. But at least that spirit of fall will be in the air. And as you go up into the Panhandle, obviously with Tallahassee, the dew point of 49 is going to feel downright dry there. But we'll see our relative humidities dipping from like the 60 and 70% range to the 40 and 50% range. So you'll really start to notice it. But not far from Orlando, the tropical humidity remains across South Florida. So it's going to eventually make a return. It's going to get humid again next week. But we've got a couple of days where, in addition to the more comfortable air, it'll also knock our rain chances down from likely, which we'll see today, to just a very outside chance this weekend, if any rain at all. All right, let's talk tropics. Today is the peak of the hurricane season, September 10th, when statistically we see the most storms. And this year, nothing. Crickets. Bizarre. So what is going on, you ask, and where do we stand in the context of everything? Well, we've had a big upper level low pressure system in the western Atlantic providing a lot of wind shear, kind of tearing systems apart before they can make it much past the Caribbean. There's also been a lot of dry air being pulled in from Africa over the Atlantic Ocean thanks to an unusually high pressure unusually strong high pressure zone called the Azores High, which is located in the North Atlantic. So we've got dust being pulled out over the Atlantic, we got a lot of wind shear, and overall a sinking air direction called subsidence over the Atlantic. That's squishing the activity. However, the hot water remains over the Atlantic and over the Gulf and Caribbean, and so when these forces subside, which they're expected to do in the next 2 weeks, the high pressure gets a little bit weaker and the dust goes away, we're likely to see a lot of activity developing, especially during the month of October. I've got much more on my Facebook page, facebook.com/BrooksTV. We dive into the metrics, how many storms we can expect before the season's out, the whole gambit. First off though, 7-day forecast, we're going to see temperatures in the 80s. One thing missing from the 7-day are the 90s. And indeed, our typical high is 90 degrees, so we're going to be below normal. It's the first time we've said that all summer, below normal. Not by much, but just by a little bit. And our rain chances taking a big dip as we head into the days Sunday and Monday before they return with humidity for the middle of next week.
Going to be reaching for those pumpkin spice lattes this weekend, Brooks.
That's right. You know, it's going to be one of those funny weekends, Garrett, where it still feels pretty hot outside. You'll be sweating if you're out there running, but at least the humidity, it'll put a little bit of pep in your step. It won't feel so smothering like, you know, when the sunshine feels heavy. It won't be like that. It'll be a nice feel to the air. All
right, looking forward to it. Fox 35 Storm Team Meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Garrett.
I want to get you live now inside this news conference in Jacksonville. The attorneys you see, legal team, Ben Crump there standing with his head bowed as a prayer is said, and that is William McNeil Jr. Standing behind him. He is the man who was seen in that viral video. Let's go ahead and listen in. This news conference about to get underway live in Jacksonville as we expect them to announce a federal lawsuit and also continuing to call for the Department of Justice to investigate this situation. So let's go ahead and listen in.
Thank you, Pastor Newman. Thank you for hosting us today on this historic day in the city of Jacksonville, Florida. My name is Attorney Eric Daniels, along with my co-counsel, Attorney Benjamin Crump, Attorney Gerald Griggs, and in the absence, Suzanne Robinson and Gabby Higgins. We have the privilege and an honor to represent William McNeil Jr. Come on, William. This morning, we filed a federal lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Middle District of Florida on behalf of Ms. McNeil. The case number is 325 CV 01058. The defendants in this case are Officer D. Bowers, Officer D. Miller, the consolidated city of Jacksonville and Duval, Florida, and Sheriff Thomas Kevin Waters, all in their individual capacity. On February 19, 2025, Ms. McNeil was a driver, obeying the traffic laws, and was stopped unjustly. He was stopped and told he was stopped because he did not have his headlights on while it was raining during the day. You know, Ben, we got video in this case.
Yes, sir.
Body camera,
Yes, sir.
cell phone footage of Mr. McNeil,
Yes, sir.
and we can unequivocally say it was not raining. As you saw the video, the officers who responded, their headlights were not on, and not a trace of rain on their windshields, nor their windshield wipers were activated. This is what you call an unlawful stop. Just because William was driving black on the side of town and the police officers wanted to get in his vehicle.
My Lord.
And when William was confronted by Bowers and told why he was stopping him, William had great concern and suspicions of his real reason of stopping him because William knew it was not raining and nothing required him to have his headlights on with no rain. And he did what anybody would do in a situation when somebody tells you something that's clearly contradicting what you see. He asked for a superior.
Yep.
He asked for a supervisor. He had a right to request that supervisor, and he was justified in requesting that supervisor. And once the officer approached him with his hand on his service weapon, William grew apprehension because one, Attorney Griggs, he knew it wasn't raining. And he knew he was required to have his headlights on. So his senses went up. What is the real reason of why this man with a gun is stopping me? And he retreated in his vehicle. He did not flee the scene. He did not try to escape. There was no car in front of him. He waited. Bowers and Miller grew impatient, so they decided to break his window. Y'all saw the video. Unequivocal evidence, undisputable evidence of what happened. He broke his window and he punched William in the face. They call it an open hand strike. It was a blow a blow that wasn't reported. And why it wasn't reported then? Because TK Waters don't require his officers to report uses of force if the person don't complain of injury. So what he's saying is that you can commit assault and don't have to report it if the person who you assaulted don't complain of injury. And in fact, you can use a distractionary blow even if they're not resisting or being violent. And it's okay in the city of Jacksonville. And Attorney Griggs, we know now why we keep coming to Jacksonville. We know now, and I told you before, this is not a bad apple, this is a bad orchard. And it's time for the orchard to be brought to justice. It's time for the orchard to be sued. It's time for them to be held accountable for their policies that have prolonged in the city of Jacksonville, Duval County, that have terrorized people that look like William McNeil, LaKen Woods, Jamie Johnson, and the list goes on and on and on. In the last 3 years, 2022 to 2024, over 400 plus use of force allegations. Only 3 of them have been sustained. This is a major metropolitan city that has an NFL team. There's a large population. Only 3 of them have been sustained. That has caused us, one, to attack the policy of this unconstitutionality and bring those to justice. And Attorney Crump will talk about this Department of Justice inquiry, a request that we have made, and more about the case. But I want to be very clear, is that today is historic, because this is not just a suit for William McNeil. It's a suit for the entire, all the cities of Jacksonville and Duval County. It's the ones who have never encountered the police. Hopefully that we can enforce a policy and bring forth a policy that you never had to be put in a situation being beaten past a noon just because you don't have your headlights on in the day. William was punched in the face when he was out of the vehicle. He was taken to the ground with his hand behind his back, and Bauer slammed his head on the pavement. His tooth struck the pavement. His tooth went through his chin that caused lacerations, and it hit his head. And William, I want y'all to pray for him, has been diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. Clinically diagnosed. No hocus pocus, no subjective, but what the doctors are saying. All because he didn't have his headlights on. I'm gonna step aside and I'm gonna have Attorney Crump come up and Attorney Griggs, and we'll have a Q&A, and William may say something at the end. But I want to be very clear. You know, Dr. King said it, and I always echo it. Injustice anywhere is a threat of justice everywhere. Injustice has been going on too long in Duval County.
That part.
And injustice has been going on too long with the people who's in charge of this sheriff office. I have family members as law enforcement. We respect law enforcement. But at the end of the day, you ain't got to believe Attorney Crump, me, or the sheriff department. We ask you to believe your own eyes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Attorney Daniels. As we stand with William McNeil Jr. and his family, we announced that the filing of this civil rights racial profiling lawsuit is necessary on September 10th, 2025, not only because of the violent confrontation and brutal assault on this young man who was not violent, not only because they refused to hear him, not only because the state attorney refused voices?
Y'all can hear us okay?
Okay. As I said, today, I'm Attorney Ben Crump. I stand for Attorney Harry Daniels and our legal team with the family of William McNeil, his mother, his father, his grandmother, and so many others who said that they should not be able to get away with this. So we filed this civil rights racial profiling lawsuit on September 10th, 2025, because it is necessary, not just because of the violent, brutal attack on this young college student who wasn't violent, Attorney Daniels. He wasn't violent at all in the video. He knew that they had lied on him, talking about he was driving without headlights while it was raining, because Stevie Wonder could see that it wasn't raining. And therefore, we filed this lawsuit because they would not give him a supervisor to hear from his perspective. The state attorney would not do their job and ignored what was seen on that video. The fact that, as Attorney Daniels and Attorney Griggs and our legal team point out in the lawsuit, the sheriff's policies ignores the facts that we see with our own eyes on this case. But it is because of the policy, the pattern of allowing racial profiling that cannot stand. Because if we let this stand, we're saying that the laws in Florida aren't right. We're saying that the Constitution of the United States isn't right. We're saying that the founding fathers who espouse equal justice under the law isn't right. But we know we are on the right side of history. That Sheriff Waters and Jacksonville is on the wrong side of history if they're going to say that racial profiling is right. It wasn't right then, and it's not right now.
That's right.
And when you look at the statistics from 2021 to when William was racially profiled for driving without headlights, these pretextual stops. If you just look at the statistics, ladies and gentlemen, here in Duval County, Attorney Daniels, they say in that time span, 78 citizens were given citations for driving without headlights while it was raining, fog, or inclement weather. And out of those 78 times, 63 were black citizens. Attorney Griggs, Jacksonville only has 29% African American population. So you mean to tell me that it's only black people who they give tickets for driving without headlights when it's raining? Or is it something more insidious that they're looking for a reason to stop black people for driving while black? Racial profiling is at an all-time high in the United States of America today. And we can't be afraid to speak truth to power, to speak up for right. It was wrong what they did to William McNeil, and those of us who believe in morals and ethics and America and the Constitution, which forms the foundation of our democracy. We must stand up for right. We must stand up for William McNeil Jr. Justice for Will.
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 Thank you, Attorney Davis.
So, as you've heard from both learned co-counsel in this case, this is about injustice. This is about brutality.
This is a news conference continuing in Jacksonville. We've got to take a quick break here on Fox Local, but we'll be right back and get you back inside this news conference on the other side of this break. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to get you back inside this news conference going on live in Jacksonville right now, where we are hearing from several attorneys discussing filing a civil rights lawsuit against the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office over this viral arrest of 22-year-old William McNeil Jr. They say he was racially profiled, also saying that he has a traumatic brain injury, some other injuries from this incident, that the body camera and the social media video recording went viral. Let's go ahead and listen back in as this news conference continues.
Not mention this lawsuit because we're not identified. They have not been identified at this time. We know there's other officers who failed to intervene. Attorney Briggs in the federal government, in the criminal prosecution, they call it a target letter. Consider this lawsuit a target letter. Once we identify you, you will be in this lawsuit. No matter who you are. I think that what Attorney Briggs said and Attorney Crump said resonate, because there's no other rhyme or reason why Wayne was stopped, except the color of his skin. We know it wasn't raining. William had his seatbelt on. If he it's one of these sayings, if you lie about anything, you lie about something, you may lie about anything. If you lie about the headlights, you're probably lying about the seatbelt. All right. With that being said, we're gonna open up for. You want to say something first? Yeah. You want to say something? Yeah. All right.
On that day, I really just wanted my side of the story to be heard, and hopefully today I hope my story get heard today.
Appreciate it.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Q&A. Go ahead.
I know you and your team briefly just spoke on how you guys call the Department of Justice to step in. What do you want this investigation to accomplish?
Well, you know, simple. This is about justice. This is about citizens protecting citizens' rights. It's the Department of Justice to ensure justice flows evenly and equally, equity for myself, for you, for my family, your family. So we want the Department of Justice to come in to look at the laws, particularly how the Constitution states. Everybody's for the same constitutional rights. One, it is a crime if your Fourth Amendment rights are violated. Attorney Griggs, if they use excessive use of force, it is a crime under the United States federal government. And that's why federal civil rights claims are there for criminal. We see it over and over again in multiple cases across the country. Recently, with Breonna Taylor in Kentucky, Louisville, it's a crime. So we want the Department of Justice to investigate and hold those accountable criminally. We are the civil lawyers, hold them accountable criminally. And what that means? Absolutely. Arrested, prosecuted, and go to jail. And recently, and I noticed that the Jacksonville media dealing with Camden County, you saw what happened in Camden County. The Department of Justice came in, did an investigation, and they didn't find just issues particularly dealing with Leonard Curry. They went back and saw 13 counts of this officer misconduct, and they charged him with 13 counts of federal indictment. So that's exactly what the Department of Justice, we want the Department of Justice to do, to uphold justice. Go ahead.
You know, it's critically important that if the state attorney here in Jacksonville won't do a thorough investigation to look into this stop and other stops that people were given citations for driving without headlights while it was raining, then that's an issue. It is our belief that if they went back and asked those 78 people, 63 of them being black citizens, did you have your headlights on or was it raining on that day? Then we could get an accurate evidence of whether racial profiling exists. But because the state attorney wouldn't do it here in Jacksonville, then we go to a higher authority with the Department of Justice. And obviously, we are taking matters into our own hands because the 7th Amendment of the United States Constitution allows when citizens feel they have been wronged, that they can bring their grievance before a court of law and have a jury of their peers hear all the evidence. And so we're going to get to the truth of the matter one way or the other. And so it will come before the court. This whole issue in Jacksonville about giving black people traffic citations for driving without headlights on, we think it's pretextual racial profiling, and it has to be addressed. We pray that the Department of Justice will do what the state attorney did not do. And if not, we pray that a jury here in Jacksonville will do what the state attorney would not do.
One of the revelations, or I guess new pieces of information that came out in the state attorney's memo that was released last month was the suggestion that, you know, this traffic stop may have started because your client was seen leaving a house that was under surveillance for narcotics activity. What's your response to that?
Well, that's exactly why we know that it was a pretextual unlawful stop, because if that in fact be the case, then the officer obviously was going to do and say anything to stop that car. You see, I used to be a criminal defense attorney. Mr. Griggs is also a criminal defense. So you're trying to get proper calls to go in that house. So you need to stop this car to say, oh, well, maybe you got something from that house. So that gives you the proof that this officer already had he already had the intent to do whatever he needed to do to stop that car, even if he made it up. Did y'all see when the other officers responded? Their headlights went on. In fact, you read the statute, they were quiet. The windshield wipers weren't going. Actually, Miller tells William that it doesn't matter. It does matter. Your headlights don't have to be on. And if you keep looking at that video, keep looking at all the videos. When they pull away from William's car, guess what you see shining? Headlights. State attorney, they didn't look at that. So you got to start at the beginning. You got to start at the beginning of this case. Because if the stop is illegal, everything's illegal. The breaking of the window, the punching in the face, the pulling out the car, everything's illegal. It's called fruit of the poisonous tree. Of course, in Jacksonville, I call this a rotten root. Any other questions?
Continuing to take questions at this Jacksonville news conference going on live right now. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox Local, but we'll be right back. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. This is civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who is speaking right now, talking about racial profiling and also addressing the fact that these officers were cleared of any criminal wrongdoing. Just a moment ago, while we were in a commercial break, he said just because it's legal basically doesn't make it right, and talking about their concerns of racial profiling, part of their allegations in this civil rights lawsuit that has now been filed against Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Let's go ahead and listen back in.
The question earlier about the surveillance of a suspected drug house.
I think it's smoke and mirrors.
That creates a basis for saying that perhaps Mr. McNeil was stopped not because of a racial bias, but because the officer was looking for anyone.
Well, why didn't he put that in the report? What's his body cam or his dash cam when his drugs out?
Smoke and mirrors.
This is the same person say it was raining.
They lie about something little, they'll lie about something big.
Yeah, let me get to my question.
We thought we had your question,
So
but
my
okay.
question is, how do you, as attorneys, go about establishing that, because stopping because he drives past a drug house that's also a pretextual stop, but that's not racial profiling. So how do you establish that racial profiling was the motive, as opposed to some motive involving this drug case?
Yeah, history kind of served us in Jacksonville, particularly on these stops. Like you said, there's no probable cause to stop a car because they ride past a drug house, or they stop. And I don't quote unquote call it a drug house. You got to remember the source where it's coming from. Right, where it's coming from. You're talking about, oh, we got surveillance. We're doing surveillance. There's no body camera. There's no support. It was absent of the report. That's what we call, as attorneys, because you asked the question with lawyers, this is what we call post hoc. You come up with a justification after the fact. But the United States Supreme Court said you can't do that. So when you're talking about a racial profiling aspect of it, one, William, come here. Look at it. Look where it happened at. Look what's happening in Jacksonville. Look what Attorney Crump talking about, people being stopped of color at a higher percentage as that's not represented in the community. So that's how the Department of Justice draw those numbers. That's how we pull those numbers. So particularly, the proof is in the pudding. It is what it is. Now, that's a great question you asked.
Yeah.
Ask the sheriff that question when you have this press conference.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They like to just throw things out once they get caught with their hands in the cookie jar. They try to justify the unjustifiable actions that we see on camera. And then they want us to believe, even though we caught them in a lie, they want us to say, no, but give me credibility on this. The reason I stopped them was this here. And so it keeps evolving to try to justify. It's an unjustifiable, unnecessary, and most importantly, unconstitutional use of force. It violated the Fourth Amendment rights. It violated the constitutional right to be free of excessive force against the police. The questions that you are asking us all, I want you to please, as Attorney Daniel said, challenge their narratives. Ask them the questions, because we have got video. Everything we're saying is backed up by objective evidence. We ain't trying to say, take Attorney Daniels or Attorney Crump word for it. We saying, believe your lying eyes. Believe your eyes. What are they asking you to believe? That's all we're saying. At some point, the truth has to count for something.
Amen.
Justice for Will.
Justice for Will.
And I've stated before, 400 plus, I think over 440 use of force allegations between 22 and 24. And in fact, we don't even know if Williams' allegations ever reported or anything. The sheriff said that, according to, they didn't know anything about it because Williams didn't show them the video, give them the video. But I recall, Attorney Griggs, in this video, there was an officer standing at the A post of the car who had a body camera on, but we only got 2 body cameras, 2 officers. What about those body cameras? What about those? We in discovery, hopefully we'll get them. But it also answers the question. Answer the question is that policies of this sheriff office of Duval County, Jacksonville. We're not here to pick on Jacksonville. We're not here to pick on anybody. We're here to seek justice. This is not about finances. Let's be clear. Ben, this is about family.
Yeah.
Your family and my family, because we know who's next. Amen. Any other questions?
And Attorney Daniels, can we just point out, y'all understand, for the alleged violation of driving without your headlights on, you see that video the whole time William is showing his hands. I mean, he has them up. He's saying that I'm not violent, I'm not a threat or anything. But they pulled a gun on him. Amen. Can you imagine that happening to your child? Them putting a gun while he's on the ground, face down, after they done handcuffed him in there. Yeah, look at the video. Look at all the video. They pulled a gun on him. Yes, ma'am.
This is for Mr. McNeil, if you're comfortable. How How are you feeling since your diagnosis?
I'm not allowed to answer that question. That's he's going through a lot. He's been clinically diagnosed with traumatic brain injury. He's suffering a lot, dealing with a lot of issues. Anybody would in that circumstance, these circumstances. He has not yet returned back to Livingstone College, where he was selling as a student in the band. This is very difficult. He's in counseling. Obviously, when you go through something traumatic as this, listen, guys, this is a very serious injury.
It is.
His head was slammed on the pavement. His teeth was slammed on the pavement. It went in his mouth, and his head was slammed. It caused a brain injury. It caused a concussion that is later diagnosed as a brain injury. This is serious business. This is very serious. This is not hocus pocus, some subjective slip and fall injury. This is real. This is something that needs to be addressed in the injury. And let me be clear, this is not the first time in Jacksonville that a young black male was beaten by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Do y'all recall the pictures of Lakeem Woods? They showed a photo of him a month later. His eyes were still swollen. He was also diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. And all the sheriffs say, forces, it's ugly. But sheriff, it's not just ugly, it's unjustified. And if you can't do your job to control these officers, somebody else needs to be the sheriff of Duval County.
Amen. Amen.
Any other questions? Listen, with that being said, thank you. We'll keep you up to date. We will be amending this complaint once we identify those other officers. We are here, steadfast in this community, because no matter where injustice is there, then Mr. Crump and myself and Mr. Griggs, we coming. Amen. We coming. Thank you. God bless y'all.
Justice for Will. 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 Justice for Will.
At the news conference wrapping up in Jacksonville, you see photos showing some of William McNeil's injuries following this viral incident, this traffic stop where he was pulled over for allegedly driving without his headlights. And you heard from Ben Crump and several of the others who were there saying they believe that McNeil was racially profiled in this, even though the officers who were involved in this traffic stop have been cleared of criminal wrongdoing, now be facing a federal lawsuit that Ben Crump and the other attorneys are filing, also calling for the Department of Justice to investigate this case. We are going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus and give you a live look at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. Finally starting to see some of the sand on that beach. It has been a high tide. We were talking about that with Fox 35's Storm Team Meteorologist Brooks Garner just a little bit ago. Meanwhile, in New Smyrna Beach, they've been dealing with some flooding issues because the rain has just kept falling there in that part of Volusia County. Some places seeing more than 5 inches of rain yesterday, really causing some issues. And folks in New Smyrna Beach say they are tired of dealing with the flooding. They also, as Fox 35's Amanda Ruiz reports, made sure city officials heard their concerns at a meeting last night.
Yeah, residents here feel like they can catch a break, especially getting those 5 inches of rain over the course of the last 2 days. They're worried it'll happen again, so residents took their concerns to City Hall after the heavy rainfall flooded roadways and damaged businesses. The water even coming up to people's knees in portions of the city. Now, the city has vacuum trucks out to try to keep the flooding under control, but residents say it still wasn't enough. One voiced his concerns at a council meeting last night, saying more needs to be done to keep the streets clear of flooding. Another resident we spoke to also agreed there needs to be a better plan because this amount of rain is concerning.
You're putting your kids to bed, here comes a rainstorm, everyone's like, my mom was over, she's like, I'm gonna go home before this rainstorm comes. And we're, you're just like doing your normal routine, and then all of a sudden, it's the same exact traumatizing feeling that a hurricane hits. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's puddling on my porch in my front door.
The city says they're prepared for more rain if it comes their way, and they're prepared to keep the damage to a minimum. Reporting in New Smyrna Beach, Amanda Ruiz, Fox 35 News.
And here's a live look in Brevard County from our Port Canaveral cam. Today marks the peak of hurricane season, believe it or not. We know the tropics are quiet right now. Very thankfully, kind of eerily. Overall, it's been a quiet season so far. 6 named storms, only 1 hurricane, that was Hurricane Aaron. Meanwhile, forecasts have predicted up to 19 storms and 10 hurricanes. Still, obviously, time for things to ramp up, but we talked with Brian Norcross, Fox Weather hurricane specialist on Good Day Orlando today about the hurricane season so far.
We go into the season with predictions. A lot of times those predictions are revised throughout the season because it doesn't quite play out how it was predicted. It's not a perfect science. So are you surprised that it's been relatively quiet so far?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out exactly why it's so quiet again. So remember, we have different kinds of hurricane season. Early in the season, we have storms develop in the Gulf generally or the Western Caribbean, and then we switch to the Eastern Atlantic. And then we switch back to the Gulf and the Caribbean later in the season. And these Eastern Atlantic seasons, last year and this year, really have not worked out the way we thought. And there's a reason. We just don't know completely what the reason is. So here's the hurricane season. So here we are at the peak right here, right now. 57–60% of the activity remaining here. You notice the slope is kind of different. It takes longer for the hurricane season to end than it does to start. That's just the reality of the statistics. And here's what you were talking about. You see the number of named storms so far, 6 instead of 8. But in the category 3s, we did have Aaron, remember? So we're right on average there. On average, 2 more category 3 and above are yet to come. And when you look at the tropical energy, or it's called the ACE, accumulated tropical energy, or accumulated cyclone energy, you see we're at 40, and it's usually 58. That's 2/3. So we are behind. But last year, we really picked up in terms of the strong storms later in the year. Obviously, Helene and Milton were key ones. So no tropical activity, but look at the Atlantic. It's incredibly dry, all the way over to the Caribbean. Lots of excess dry air, and that's what's making it very difficult for these storms to develop. High pressure is stronger than normal out there, so that's driving dry air down to the south in this kind of circulation, also cutting off some of the disturbances that come off of Africa. That's a factor. Maybe dragging more dust out than normal. The total dust is less than normal, but longer into the season. And then we have this disturbed weather called the ITCZ down to the south, and it makes only a little corridor. Remember 91L that we were watching and thinking was going to develop was in that corridor for a while, and then it got out. So So we have a lot of, it's a very fine lines what's going on there. Why is it happening? That we don't know. The high pressure is going to move away this week and weaken, and that'll kind of make a corridor here for storms to move perhaps into the Atlantic. We'll see. Here's the moisture that we have as of this Saturday. It's just a big blob over here. It's really nothing. We go through next week. Look at this. They start to organize a bit. We get 1, 2, 3 kind of disturbances here, but nothing really organized. Lots of dry air. The brown is dry all around it. We have an exclusive combination model here. The European GFS and the Google AI model gives us an idea where storms, the consensus is, might develop. And you see we're talking way next week that maybe we get one coming here. But notice it's already turning to the north. So we don't have any concern about this part of the hurricane season as of right now. Then we'll turn our attention later in the month to the Gulf and the Caribbean, and then we'll see all kind of bets are off there. That's a whole different weather regime that doesn't appear to be affected by whatever is going on in the Atlantic.
So, Brian, one of the things Brooks keeps talking about here, our meteorologist, is just that how warm the water is, and that the reason we have hurricane season, people understand why do we have to have these major storms, is to bring that cooler air in so that we can have eventually a change of season. So, can you talk about the heat of the water and how that could be problematic?
Yeah, many things are conducive to super conducive for storms. The Atlantic is plenty warm. It's the 6th warmest on record. Certainly the Gulf is super warm, although that cold front that Brooks has been talking about, that kind of stirs up the northern Gulf a little bit. But still, the Gulf is always warm. The Caribbean is plenty warm. There's no issue there. The hostile upper level winds, sometimes we talk about wind shear, that's not really an issue, especially over the Caribbean and the Gulf, the southern Gulf, northern Gulf, different story. So, there's plenty of room for storms to develop. I think what's going to happen is, again, the eastern Atlantic is just not going to be where they're going to come from this year. And starting later this month, we're going to pay attention to what's going on around Central America. That Central American gyre that can spin out storms like Helene last year. It's another year, another gyre. So we'll see what happens with that.
I'll give you a live look right now in Titusville, looking toward the Kennedy Space Center. We'll have some
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus to give you a live look at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, right now at the NASA headquarters, NASA officials are giving an update on a rock sample that was found by the Perseverance Mars rover last year, and the sample is called Sapphire Canyon. Was collected in July of last year from Mars, and this is something that scientists with NASA have been looking at the analysis of, and they're holding a news conference right now about this and what that analysis has found and what it teaches us. Like I said, it is going on now, but I want to take you back to the beginning of this so that we see this entire thing, some interesting discussion and findings. So let's go ahead and get you inside this news conference. This is acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy and some other officials as well. So let's go ahead and listen in.
For today's press conference, for the last 30 years, NASA has been exploring Mars. And in that exploration, we're looking for signs of life, we're looking for water, but 30 years of exploration. And in the past, we thought we found signs of life. And when we did that, we put it out to the scientific community. And the scientific community would come back and say, well listen, there's different explanations for what you think was life. It actually was created by something else. And that's been the history, the partnership that NASA has with its discoveries and the scientific community that will, in essence, pressure test what we think we've found. So we're talking about Perseverance. This was a mission sent to Mars under President Trump's first presidency. And a year ago, we found a sample, and it was, again, we're exploring in places where there were rivers and where there were lakes. And much as on Earth, we think that that's where we'd see signs of ancient life on Mars. And so a year ago, we thought we found what we believe to be signs of microbial life on the Mars surface. And so we put it out to our scientific friends to pressure test it, to analyze it, and go, did we get this right? Do we think this is signs of ancient life on Mars? And after a year of review, they've come back and they said, listen, we can't find another explanation. So this very well could be the clearest sign of life that we've ever found on Mars, which is incredibly exciting. Again, we're gonna break that down for all of you with our lead scientists here at NASA, those who have been involved. Dr. Horowitz, Professor Horowitz wrote the paper that was released today, so we want to hear from him as well. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about what we're actually doing here at NASA, which is human flight exploration. Many of you have heard about our Artemis program. At the first part of next year, we're going to send 4 astronauts back to the moon, but we're going to just go around the moon. We're not going to land in Artemis 2, which is coming early next year. But about a year and a half after that, we're going to do Artemis 3. We're going back to the moon. And this time, we are going to stay for a longer period of time at the start, but we want a long-term presence of life on the moon led by America. And what's important with this mission is what we learn on this mission to the moon is going to help us to actually put American boots on Mars. And it's an exciting time. And again, we have great science around it. We're pushing our partners. We're pushing NASA. We're in a second space race right now. The Chinese want to get back to the moon before us. That's not going to happen. America has led in space in the past, and we are going to continue to lead in space in the future. And again, this discovery today, I hope makes everyone excited about the future missions that we're going to have and the exploration we're going to do and the science we're going to develop to make sure we can send Americans, mankind, throughout the universe. And so, but we do want to lean into this exciting news that we have today. And to give us more, I'm going to turn it over to Nikki Fox, who is the Associate Administrator for our science mission. Nikki.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, it really is an exciting day today. NASA, what we do is we study the seemingly impossible. That's what we do every day at NASA Science. And NASA Science is undisputably the global authority in the search for life beyond our home planet. And so today we are going to talk to you about this amazing, exciting discovery. And I also want to make sure that we put context around it. And you see like how it fits into our search for life in the universe. Our galaxy is 100 billion light years across. And within 10 light years of Earth, there are at least 400 known planets. And that means there is a possibility, some would even say a probability, of life beyond Earth, including maybe even complex intelligent life. And today we are really showing you how we are kind of one step closer to answering humanity's one of their most profound questions, and that is, are we truly alone in the universe? So if I could have the first image, please, that would be great. So last July, as Secretary Duffy eloquently described, NASA's Perseverance rover found a leopard-spotted rock at Mars. And scientists immediately knew. It was interesting, we hadn't seen anything like that before on Mars. And we talked about it last summer. The moment we found it, we put out the images for everybody to see and everybody to share in the joy of NASA science. And, you know, today, we're really here celebrating that incredible hard work of the science team as they literally tried to prove it wasn't interesting. Maybe it's just something else. Maybe it's not, you know, the key result that we've been waiting for. And so they've done the analysis on these leopard spots, and we think they are potentially made by some sort of ancient life. This finding by our incredible Perseverance rover is the closest we've actually come to discovering ancient life on Mars. And if you can't tell, we're really excited about that. But, you know, I want to put it into context. It's a signature. It's a sort of leftover sign. It's not life itself. And it certainly could have been from ancient life, and that would have been something that was there billions of years ago, nothing that's current there. And, you know, it could certainly, as we say, be made by ancient life. And what that means is we look at everything we know about life on Earth. And this is the kind of signature that we would see that was made by something biological. In this case, it's kind of the equivalent of seeing like leftover fossils, you know, leftovers from a meal, and maybe that meal's been excreted by a microbe, and that's what we're seeing in this sample. And, you know, again, as Secretary Duffy said, we don't know for sure that's what it is, and we won't stop after this first analysis. This certainly is not the final answer. But we have this first result, and we're sharing it with you, the world, and we are asking you to look and give you our analyses also. And that's what we do in NASA science. This is, you know, how we find our information. It's part of that long journey. We ask a question, we design a mission that can actually go and address that question. We develop the technology, we build the hardware, we launch it into space. It takes the data, it brings back the information that we need here, we analyze it, and we come up with answers to those really, really tough questions. We've actually been studying Mars with, you know, even as early as 60 years ago when we sent our first missions there to take pictures of Mars and tell us really that's quite an interesting place and we really do want to send humans there. And so we've been doing this so we can understand the planet so we are ready to send our humans there. We certainly, as we look forward, we plan to send more missions to Mars in support of the Artemis program, which we're really proud of. And it will open the door for humans to study and better understand the red planet, and perhaps even one day bring back Martian samples home for us to actually study here on Earth. And I want to underscore the point that NASA science discoveries do not just happen at random. They are the rewarding results from meticulous, long-term strategic planning. We send these missions to really address these incredible questions. And each new discovery helps us just, you know, kind of drive what research is coming next. What missions do we want to design next so we can kind of take that full bench of tools with us to solve the problems of how best to support, to explore our solar system. First with robotic missions and then with humans. And before I pass it on to my colleagues who are going to tell you all about the details of this incredible finding, I just want to talk a little bit more about how NASA searches for life. And there's so much happening that I am incredibly excited about. We have Europa Clipper that is on its way to explore an icy moon of Jupiter to investigate whether the subsurface ocean underneath that icy crust has the potential to support life. After that, we'll launch Dragonfly, which has been deemed the most exciting science space mission of your lifetime. And it's a drone, it's the size of an SUV, and it's going to be humanity's first airborne science mission to another world. Dragonfly will explore the amazing world of Saturn's moon Titan, which is the only place in our solar system where that have lakes of liquid on the surface. And with Dragonfly, it's going to let us understand the prebiotic chemistry that predominated Earth here before the origin of life. And the other thing we're looking for all over the universe is potentially habitable worlds. 30 years ago, we first discovered an exoplanet around another star system, and today we know of thousands of them. This has changed the very way that we look at our night sky. We know that there is, on average, a planet for every star in the sky. And as I've been saying, each new mission is specifically designed based on all of the knowledge that we've gained so far. And in this case, the knowledge is allowing us to lean forward to study a concept mission that is supported in the president's budget called Habitable Worlds Observatory. And that will allow us to search for habitable worlds and for signs of life around 100 of our nearest stars. Super, super exciting. Mm-hmm. From its vantage point in deep space, it will observe a variety of critical targets for us to go and explore, for us to sort of put our fleet of telescopes staring at those, including our amazing James Webb Space Telescope, and of course our upcoming flagship mission that we launched in 2027, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. Super excited. Yay, Roman. The Habitable Worlds Observatory insights could help keep astronauts and human infrastructure safe in space, and it will be the most powerful telescope NASA has ever launched, maintaining Americans' leadership in space, which is so important. But for now, back to the present and back to Mars. And so I am delighted to turn it over to Dr. Katie Stack-Morgan to tell us more about Perseverance's work on Mars, and she's joining us by phone. Take it away, Katie.
Thank you so much, Nikki. The discovery of a potential biosignature or a feature or signature that could be consistent with biological processes, but that requires further work and study to confirm a biological origin is something that we're sharing with you all today that grows from years of hard work, dedication, and collaboration between over 1,000 scientists and engineers here at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. cumulates that had a number of interactions with water and preserved probably micro-environments that were likely habitable. The rover then transitioned to the western fan. It's a sequence of sedimentary rocks whose sediments were transported from ancient terrains out of the crater into the crater in a relatively long-lived and stable lake, delta, and river setting. The rover then transitioned to what we call the margin unit. This was a thick sequence of igneous rocks that really distinguished themselves by strong orbiter spectroscopic signals of the minerals olivine and carbonate. After the margin unit exploration, the rover had a chance to traverse into the Retva Vallis, which is the main feeder river valley that once fed the ancient lake that was present in Jezero. And this river valley, more than 3.5 billion years ago, this valley would have been filled with rushing rivers carrying mud, sand, and gravel from outside the crater into the lake inside the crater. This kind of energetic setting was probably punctuated by periods of calm when water would have backed up, creating a relatively low-energy lake environment where deposition by settling from suspension could have occurred. Eventually, though, this water dried up, the lakes and rivers dried up, and the Bright Angel outcrop was revealed. And this outcrop records for us a potential habitable environment that we can study and the rover can explore on the surface of Mars today. If we can bring up the next slide, please, we can see Bright Angel through the eyes of Perseverance. It's a distinct light-toned outcrop, and its current extent and relief has been exposed to us through billions of years of wind, erosion, and thermal cycling. The rover spent several months exploring this area, ultimately pushing to the edge, the northern edge of the channel, where the Bright Angel Formation met the margin unit. And it's here at the contact, this edge of the river valley, that the rover explored a special target called Chayava Falls. If we move to the next image, please. The Chayava Falls rock and those around it show very thin layers. They're often red to tan in color, and they're very fine grained, so the sediment that makes them up is very, very small. This, coupled with the fact that these rocks occur in a river setting, really points to a sedimentary origin here, where we had deposition of these sediments in water. Here in this area, we also have some coarser-grained rocks, again suggesting that we had a transition from those more energetic river environments to the more calm lake environments. And while every outcrop on Mars has an interesting story to tell, in order to really understand what makes this particular outcrop so special, we have to get our noses to the outcrop, or in this case, the rover's arm, up close and personal to take a look at all the details of these rocks. So to tell us more about that, I'm going to pass it on now to Professor Joel Hurowitz, who is the lead author of the study that came out in Nature this week. Joel, over to you.
Thank you so much, Katie. If I can bring up the first view graph, what you're looking at here is a selfie that Perseverance took of itself in front of the Chayava Falls workspace in the Bright Angel Formation. And I show this image, one, to kind of provide a little bit of additional context and show that we collected a sample from this rock. You can see a hole in the rock where that sample core was collected. But also to make the point that we really used every scientific instrument available to us on the payload to investigate these rocks and really try to tell or paint as complete a picture as we can of what these rocks are made of, the environment they were deposited in, and how the interesting features that we see in them might have formed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move to the next image, and we're going to zoom back up to the surface of the Chayava Falls rock. And this is the same image you were looking at before. And what I want to do with this image here is I just want to convey some of the excitement that we had when this image came down last summer. And what we saw in this rock were these layers of very fine-grained, rusty red mudstone that had in them these incredible features, these things that we took to calling poppy seeds, which are the sort of dark black spots in the rock. and leopard spots, which are these kind of ring-shaped features that have dark rims around them. These textural features told us that something really interesting had happened in these rocks. Some set of chemical reactions occurred at the time they were being deposited. And so we really wanted to understand what those reactions might have been. And one of the things we wanted to ask ourselves was, is it possible that organic matter might have played some role in the generation of these textural features? So we turned to our organic chemical detector, the Sherlock instrument, and trained it on this rock at the location of those two little black boxes that you see on the surface of the rock. And I'll switch to our next view graph. The data that we got back from the Sherlock instrument was fantastic. What you can see here is a set of spectra that are called Raman spectra. And there's a lot of information on these graphs, but the key thing to take note of is the fact that what we see in these spectra is something called a G-band, and that's pointed out on the image. The G-band for us is a smoking gun indicator for the presence of organic matter in this mud. And we see that G-band in the Chayava Falls target, and we actually see it in a couple of the other locations that we interrogated around the Bright Angel Formation. And this tells us that we had a rusty red mud that was deposited in the presence of organic matter. So the next question for us was there some reaction occurring between the mud and the organic matter to give rise to those interesting poppy seed and leopard spot textures that we were seeing? So we turned to the other instrument out on the end of the rover's arm called the Pixel instrument. And the results from that instrument are shown on my next slide. Here what you can see is the chemistry of the surface of this rock rendered in three colors, red, green, and blue. And the mixing between colors is telling us something about where elements are present together. What I'm showing you here is that the mud itself, which shows up in red in this color representation, is rich in iron. The things that are purple are rich in the elements iron and phosphorus. And that iron and phosphorus shows up in the poppy seeds and in the rims of those leopard spots. In the places where you can see sort of dull yellow to green tones, that's where iron and sulfur have been combined together in the cores of the leopard spots. And they have been combined into an iron and phosphorus-bearing mineral that we think is vivianite, and an iron and sulfur-bearing mineral that we think is a mineral called greigite. And what's exciting about these finds, this sort of combination of mud and organic matter that has reacted to produce these minerals and these textures, is that when we see features like this in sediment on Earth, these minerals are often the byproduct of microbial metabolisms that are consuming organic matter and making these minerals as a result of those reactions. But there are non-biological ways to make these features that we cannot completely rule out on the basis of the data that we collected with our rover payload. So what we need to do from here is to continue to do additional research in laboratory settings here on Earth, and ultimately bring the sample that we collected from this rock back home to Earth so that we can make the final determination for what process actually gave rise to these fantastic textures. So with that, I'm going to close out and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lindsay Hayes for the next part of the program.
Thanks, Joel. So in order to wrap us up, I really want to highlight some context for the points that we've made here today. First, we are excited. We're excited to be announcing the publication of this peer-reviewed paper about these features from this about 350 billion-year-old rock on Mars, right? This is about the same time as we see some of the earliest fossils of life on Earth. And so these features are helping us to better understand the potential biological history of Mars. After our announcement last year, the peer-reviewed publication is the next step in the scientific process, and it allows NASA to make the data that we collected from this mission and the science team's interpretation of that data sort of available to the broader science community for further and wider study. This work to investigate the processes that are described here will continue, and hopefully, eventually, this will be followed by the delivery of these samples back to Earth, where they could be studied in terrestrial labs. Additionally, I want to remind everyone that what we're describing here is a potential biosignature. That is a characteristic, element, molecule, substance, or feature that might have a biological origin but requires more data or further study before reaching a conclusion about the presence or absence of life. And then finally, as we have explored Mars, one of our main goals has been to determine if Mars was habitable in the past and whether or not life was ever present. This was part of the reason that we sent Perseverance to Jezero Crater. And the findings that we talked about here, they weren't an inevitable result from this mission, right? They're the direct result of more than decades of work by tens of thousands of people with many different missions that were meticulously and strategically planned, payloads that were developed and missions that were executed capable to lead us to achieving this discovery. Our exploration themes, and I think there's a slide here, have guided the Mars exploration program as it has evolved over time. And these are the reasons why we explore. These missions have expanded our understanding of Mars to more than we know about any other planet other than our Earth. And it's, examples of our combined ability to look at things that allows us to look at things like this Martian meteorite here, which is EETA 79001. This is a Martian meteorite that was found in Antarctica, but combine these kinds of work, the curation of these meteorites, the study of these meteorites in NASA labs, with data from our missions like Viking, allowed us to characterize this meteorite and a whole host of other meteorites as coming from Mars, which allows us to do some additional context with our missions. So all of that combined work, right, there's no other space agency that has conducted such a long-term coordinated campaign in planetary exploration. And this demonstrates American leadership in space and in science, and data from these robotic explorers are now feeding forward to our plans to prepare humans to return to the moon and to go onto Mars as part of the Artemis mission. And so thank you very much, and I'm going to send it back to the moderator for time for questions, I believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers today. We are going to move on to the question and answer portion of today. As a reminder to the media, you can hit *1 to get into the queue. We were planning to take one question per person. I also want to make sure you know we do have imagery available, the imagery we showed, as well as some animations that we did not. If you go to nasa.gov, you'll be able to see our press release, and you will have access to imagery there. With that, we will go to our first question, which is from Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press.
Yes, hello, good morning. For someone at NASA, what's the latest on NASA's plans to retrieve the samples from Perseverance? Has NASA made any decisions yet on the options put forth by former administration Nelson before he stepped down? Is there any kind of tentative timeline? Thank you very much.
So, listen, we're looking at how we get this sample back or other samples back. What I said at the start was this is 30 plus years of exploring Mars, and that is going to continue into the future. This is exciting news. What we're going to do.
background between last summer and now. So yeah, that is what has happened between then and now. And I would highlight that the peer review process is a really important component of being able to present these results here to you today.
And Bill, that's part of the process, right? So again, we find the sample. We can have a lot of commentary that agrees with what NASA has found. Some may disagree, but to interrogate the data, as Joel just mentioned, and to have it peer reviewed. What's exciting is in the past, what we thought it was, our peer reviewers would say it was not. Our peer reviewers are saying, well, this actually could be what NASA thinks it is, and that's why this is so exciting, and that's why we want to have this press conference to share it with the world, to share it with you. And also, we are ultra transparent, right? If we had this exciting news about the peer reviewers and what we think we found at NASA, and I didn't bring it to you, if we didn't have everyone here together, you might go, you're trying to hide stuff from us. Why didn't you tell us that a year ago? So we are here to say, this is exciting. And we want to share that news with, again, the data that's been pressure tested with other scientists who are like, this could be very real. Anyone else want to?
No, you nailed it. Yeah.
Great answer. Thank you so much. Next, we have Ken Chang with the New York Times.
Hi, thank you. So this is for Secretary Duffy. I've talked to a few scientists about this, and they all say it's very interesting, but that there are potential non-biological explanations for these minerals, and the only way to really find out is to bring them back. But the Trump administration, in its budget request, called for the cancellation of the Mars sample return mission. Based on what Mr. Duffy said earlier, is that not the case anymore? That you are still looking to possibly conduct that?
So we have to look at all of our missions, and we have to look at the cost and the time on each of the missions that are going to be deployed and have been deployed. And because we care about resources and we care about the time frame, we believe there's a better way to do this, a faster way to get these samples back. And so that is the analysis that we've gone through. Can we do it faster? Can we do it cheaper? And we think we can, and that's why we're not going to take it back on Percy. We're going to actually figure out a different way to bring it back. Again, and we think we can do it faster and more cost effectively. But again, I want to be really clear. This is a 30-year process that NASA has undertaken. President Trump didn't say, hey, let's divert, let's forget about Mars. No, we're continuing our exploration. And by the way, we've been very clear under this president that we don't want to just bring samples back from Mars. We want to send our boots to the moon and to Mars. And that is the work that we're doing. So, and by the way, Ahmed has even said, maybe we'll send our equipment to test this sample to Mars itself. All options are on the table, but again, we're gonna use the best options possible to do the best analysis possible, to give you the best information possible.
All right, then, I will move on to our next question, which is Irene Klotz from Aviation Week.
Thank you. For Secretary Duffy, do you expect this finding will shuffle the administration's priorities for returning the samples? And for Joel or Katie, what else can be done remotely to better ascertain if the mudstone organics are biologic or abiotic? Thank you.
If Joel and Katie want to go first, I'll answer that second.
Yeah, I can take that one. Thank you. Yeah, you know, we while we were exploring the Bright Angel area, we basically threw the entire rover science payload at this rock, and so you know we're pretty close to the limits of what the rover can do on the surface in terms of making progress on that particular question. And of course, that was by design, since the payload of the Perseverance rover was selected with a Mars sample return effort in mind. So the idea was for our payload to get us, you know, just up to the potential biosignature designation and have the rest of the story told by instruments here on Earth. You know, we are still in the midst of analyzing the geologic context of this sample, and our scientists are continuing to do the work there. You know, Joel's paper represents, I think, kind of the overview and summary of our understanding, but we have other scientists on the team who will be putting out works over the next year or so